It's six of the best for Canada, whilst fellow host Mexico officially reached the round of 32. Switzerland's star boy steps up off the bench. Neymar is ruled out of another World Cup outing. And Liverpool's 100 mil offer for Diomande is rejected. This is DMAC Daily. I gotta say, the 48-team expanded World Cup hosted by Canada, the United States, and Mexico has been a big hit thus far. The fans have been incredible. The games have been unreal. Football cinema every single day. All in all, so far so good. Still got smoke from FIFA, but thankfully the beautiful game prevails. And where else to start today's show other than Canada, who for the first time in their nation's history have won a World Cup match. And they did it in the most emphatic way possible, destroying Qatar 6-0 on home soil in Vancouver in front of over 52,000 jubilant fans in attendance. Incredible scenes. Side note, I freaking love this venue. Socceroos fans will never forget it, that's for sure. For me, it's way better than Toronto Stadium. But anyways, on to the match itself. And wow, that was a statement performance from Jesse Marsch's side. You know, they were good against Bosnia. They probably should have won the game on the balance of play, but today they showed just how far Canadian football has come. Like, getting to the World Cup in 2022 was one thing, but now they're on the big stage and playing like a big team. From minute one today, there were levels between these two sides. Ahmed came into the side off of an impressive substitute cameo last game alongside Kyle Larin, who of course scored their first ever World Cup goal last week in spectacular fashion. Both players were outstanding today. Their selections were vindicated, with Larin opening the scoring for Canada once again, but he wouldn't be the star of Canada today. That honor would be held by another forward, none other than Jonathan David, the same guy who was slandered heavily following a poor performance in match day one, responded in the best way possible today by scoring a hat-trick, including one of the goals of the tournament in my opinion. The technique on that volley was outrageously good. I was thrilled to see him silence the doubters. I know he's had a somewhat tough season with Juventus, but his qualities are undeniable. This is Canada's all-time leading goal scorer we're talking about here. A player who's been prolific in Europe for like 95% of his career too. If ever there was a footballer to depend on in the red and white, it's Jonathan David. As for Qatar, I mean, respectfully, put the fries in the bag, bro. I mean, I was pretty stunned that Lopetegui fielded the exact same team today from match day one. Like, yes, they somehow finessed a point in that game v Switzerland, but they were so abysmal in that outing. So Canada did what the Swiss couldn't and decimated their opponents. They could not handle Canada's intense tempo and barely offered anything in possession. Canada finished with 79% of the ball, 32 shots to Qatar's 2. Yeah, this was a proper beatdown. Sure, the red cards didn't help, but the AFC champions were already getting cooked when it was 11v11. Embarrassing stuff. These guys need to imagine they're playing in the Asian Cup or something, because on the world stage, they're consistently terrible. Regardless, a historical victory for the host nation, 6 of the best. The only real negative for Canada was the injury sustained to Ismail Kone. The central midfielder suffered a horrific double break, a broken tibia and fibula. That was devastating to see live. The sheer disbelief in Kone's face when it happened. Very sad on an individual level, and for Canada, it's huge. For me, I think he's their most influential player. Sure, David and Davies are the star names on paper, but this guy's a colossus in the center of the park. Without him, they're definitely weaker for it. Full credit to substitute Nathan Saliba though. The youngster came in and scored a beautiful free kick, the first of the tournament, before providing an assist late on too. Big shoes to fill for the youngster in their final group game v Switzerland. They're almost certainly secured a spot in the round of 32, but they'll be eyeing top spot with a win in this match, and I think it's very much a possibility just quietly. Moving from one host nation to another, and Mexico have put the iconic fan solidarity with South Koreans temporarily aside, defeating the Asian powerhouse 1-0 in a tense affair in Guadalajara. Now, I don't follow El Tri as religiously as your diehard Mexican fan would, but I was a little surprised with some of the changes to today's squad, with Sanchez coming in at right back, Alvarez stepping in at the center of defense for the suspended Montes. That made sense. And the big one in midfield, Luis Romo given the start over Fidalgo, Mora, and a host of other midfield options. But the manager would be justified in his selections, as it would be Romo who would be the difference maker on the day, reacting quickest to a rare error from Korea's goalkeeper to send the crowd wild. You got a feel for Kim in goal. He was terrific against Czechia in game 1, and to be fair, he was otherwise brilliant today too, coming up with 3 huge saves. Meanwhile, Mexico's keeper Raul Rangel came in clutch with an extraordinary double save in the second half. How he kept the ball out of the net there was genuinely mind-blowing. Similarly, Edson Alvarez's acrobatic goal line clearance was ridiculous. The desire of this team defensively is very admirable. It's why they've kept back-to-back clean sheets alongside back-to-back wins, something they'd never done previously, and as a result, Mexico are now the first side to reach the round of 32. So credit to Aguirre. They haven't played incredible football thus far, but this isn't an incredible Mexico side in terms of raw talent. So I think the manager is getting it spot on. This pragmatism will serve them well as they approach more difficult obstacles in the weeks ahead. I see them reaching the round of 16 minimum. They're a real problem side for me. As for South Korea, very unfortunate not to get a result today, but they'll still be very confident of advancing too, I'm sure, coming up against South Africa in that final group stage match. Speaking of South Africa, and their World Cup dream is still alive, but only just, as Bafana managed to secure a 1-1 draw with Czechia after Tehoba Mokwena's late penalty rescued their first point of the tournament. But this was less a statement performance from the South Africans and more a lifeline they now have to use moving forward. For large parts of this game, South Africa were still sluggish, still defensively shaky, and still lacking that cutting edge in the final third. Czechia started fast and probably should have been out of sight early on. Patrick Schick missed a free header inside the opening minute before Mikael Sadalik put them 1-0 up in the 6th. From then on, Czechia had chances to kill the game. Dorito was found unmarked just after halftime, but his touch let him down, and Schick failed to convert another header in the second half. This is why Czechia will be furious, right? This wasn't a brilliant performance for them, but it was a game they had more than enough chances to win. Instead, they kept their opponents within reach, and eventually, South Africa were handed a lifeline. Maseko's shot struck Pavel Solch's arm, the penalty was given, and Mokoena stepped up to score South Africa's first World Cup goal in 16 years. Suddenly, the slow, cautious South Africa disappeared. There was a late flurry, and for the first time in this tournament, there were glimpses of that team that topped Nigeria in qualifying. This was the exciting Bafana of old. Can they stun Korea in match 3? It's unlikely, but do not rule out Bafana. Elsewhere in the World Cup, and Switzerland have finally stepped up to the plate, defeating Bosnia and Herzegovina 4-1. Not to brag, but vindication for your boy, because I was bemoaning the fact that manager Yakin didn't start Manzambi in their tournament opener. Bro clearly does not watch DMAC daily, because he was on the bench once again today, but thankfully he brought the Freiburg star into the contest with the game level at 0-0, and from that point on, Switzerland looked a completely different team, because let's be honest, for those first 70 minutes or so, this was not some dominant Swiss masterclass. It was slow, it was frustrating, and having already dropped points against a very poor Qatar side, there was a genuine concern that Switzerland could put themselves in a really awkward position heading into their final group game against Canada. But I guess this is where Yakin at least deserves some credit, because he deliberately waited until the hydration break before making an attack-minded triple change. Why then? Because I guess it allowed him to reset his own team without giving Bosnia the time to properly adjust. A decision that proved to be decisive in the end. Manzambi came on and within minutes broke the deadlock with a ridiculous first-time volley. That was the moment the entire game changed. Bosnia, who had done a pretty decent job frustrating Switzerland until then, suddenly lost all control. Muharemovic was then sent off for bringing down Embolo as the last man, and once Bosnia went down to 10, Switzerland started cooking. Ruben Vargas, who also came off the bench, added a beautiful goal of his own. Manzambi then scored again, showing the kind of composure that makes you wonder how on earth he wasn't starting already. At just 20, this felt like a proper breakout moment on the international stage. Meanwhile, Granit Xhaka had a big role to play today as well. After all the criticism back home about his negative comments involving the team, he responded in the best way possible. A commanding performance in the center of midfield and a goal of his own too, slotting home a late penalty with a celebration mocking the critics. So their World Cup is now up and running. As for Bosnia, a tough defeat to take. They're still mathematically alive, but they're going to need to turn on the style in their final group game against Qatar if they have any hope of advancing. Maybe in Dzeko's last dance, the 40-year-old will wind back the clock and do something special. Meanwhile, Brazil have been dealt a major blow with Neymar officially ruled out of their second World Cup group stage game against Haiti. The 34-year-old will not even travel with the squad to Philadelphia, instead remaining in New Jersey to continue the final phase of his recovery from a lingering right calf injury. And whilst on paper Brazil should still have more than enough quality to defeat Haiti, Neymar's fate remains a polarizing issue because Brazil's number 10 did not arrive at this tournament as a fully fit superstar who simply suffered an unfortunate setback. No, Brazil selected him knowing his body had repeatedly let him down for a long time. Carlo Ancelotti still chose to include him in the squad while several attacking names were then left at home. João Pedro missed out amongst others, and whether you rate those players or not, they were at least fit enough to rely on. Neymar, on the other hand, having already struggled with injury woes, suffers another setback and may not be seen now until the knockout stages. At this point, you do have to ask a serious question. Was this a football decision or a legacy decision? Because the Neymar Brazil are waiting for is not the prime versions of his previous 3 World Cup tournaments, right? Sure, he is still Brazil's all-time leading goal scorer, and technically there are very few players in the squad who can replicate his creativity on the pitch. But his physical condition is clearly so fragile, and tournament football is ruthless. You cannot carry passengers at a World Cup, particularly in Brazil's case, because they no longer possess the technical prowess to just dominate games. Morocco's midfield completely dictated the pace in Brazil's opening match day. Between Bruno Guimaraes, Fabinho, and Casemiro, I don't see Brazil matching it with the world's best in the center of the pitch. This is now the dilemma for Ancelotti. If Neymar returns for the knockouts, do Brazil actually trust him in a high-intensity game after weeks of limited training? Do they build their team around a luxury playmaker devoid of match sharpness? Do they use him as an impact sub? Or do they accept that this tournament has sadly moved beyond him? Neymar's name still carries enormous weight within Brazil, but it seems unlikely that he's going to walk into this side in his current state and immediately restore Joga Bonito back to Brazil. But maybe I'm just too pessimistic. Let me know your thoughts below. Moving to transfer news now, and less than 24 hours after Liverpool struck a €40 million deal for Victor Munoz, Yan Diomande is now next up. According to both Sky Sports and Fabrizio Romano, the Reds have officially tabled a €100 million bid for the Ivorian wunderkind, with RB Leipzig immediately rejecting the proposal. Now, the German club reiterate there's no desire for them to let Diomande leave. They actually claim to want to extend his contract, but realistically, this feels like transfer market posturing more than anything else, right? This is the Red Bull model after all. They poach young talent, give them a platform to develop at a high level, and then inevitably sell when the price becomes too good to ignore. I mean, they've literally sold over €500 million worth of talent in the last 3 seasons alone, so I'm almost certain Diomande is going to leave this summer. It's just a matter of how much money can Leipzig squeeze out of a sale. Because 100 mil clearly ain't going to suffice. They're demanding a record fee. I think it's going to take Wirtz level money, 130 plus, to make this happen. Keep in mind, Diamande's current contract runs until 2030, and there's no active buyout clause in place. Additionally, PSG's presence in the background only strengthens Leipzig's negotiation stance further. Like Liverpool, PSG are a club with a proven willingness to pay premium fees for elite young attackers and evidently have the financial muscle to potentially drop 9 digits on a player like it's nothing. Now, both clubs clearly need a player like Diomande. In Liverpool's case, they're looking to fill the void of Salah's departure long term. Now, replacing that level of quality is a seemingly impossible task, but Diamande's potential is extraordinarily high. Munoz is also a promising player, but in my opinion, Diamande's ceiling is much higher. Meanwhile, PSG will probably see Barcola and Lee Kangen exit this summer, which in theory puts them in a decent financial position to seriously pursue Diomande. Adding to this, the player himself even stated, PSG is a team I've loved since I was a little child. So it seems like a great fit potentially. I just wonder if their pursuit is dependent on outgoing sales first, and in that case, maybe Liverpool are in the driver's seat to try and get this deal over the line ASAP. Another outcome, which I could also see coming to fruition, is Liverpool refusing to fork out the 130 mil required and turning their attention to Barcola instead. Maybe a more cost-effective solution. We'll see what happens if Diomande keeps cooking at the World Cup. His price is only going to go up further too. It's almost certainly going to be the biggest transfer of the summer. Anyways, guys, that's all for today's DMAC Daily. We got the big one tomorrow, USA v the Socceroos. So brace yourself, Yanks, for the haram ball clinic you are about to endure. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.